Chapter 6. Awakened. Jandar awoke with a strangled cry, his body soaked in sweat, and his heart feeling as though it were trying to jump out of his chest. Nightmares had plagued his sleep, horrific phantasms far more realistic than anything he had ever felt before. He reached across the bed for Lenora, but she wasn't there. His terror renewed and he ran for Jessie's tiny room, but it was empty as well. They were in Middale, or would be sometime tomorrow. Jandar tried to calm down, to reassure himself that they were okay, but he knew they weren't. He wasn't having nightmares. He was remembering. He replayed the gruesome scenes in his mind, watching his family die time and again, watching himself die. How was he here? He had died at the bandits' hands nearly as often as his family had. Sometimes the adventurers had saved them, although he had died in the fight. Other times he lived and they died. On a few occasions, like the one the night before, they had all died. Those accursed adventurers had acted like it was a sport. He had no doubt. The one last night had even shot him in the leg with an arrow so the bandit could kill him. Had he truly died just a few hours ago? How was he here if he were dead? It was all so strange, and he couldn't make heads nor tails of what was happening. The only thing Jandar knew for certain was that his family was dead because of those accursed adventurers, and they needed to die for what they did. Jandar pulled on his clothes, packed a bag of essentials, donned his heavy leather apron, and picked up his smithing hammer. It was said the adventurers were granted immortality by the high goddess Matris, that they would return to life if killed. He did not care. If he could watch them die just once and return some of the pain they had caused him, great. If he could kill them over and over, even better. Ben's avatar appeared next to him just a couple of minutes after Eddie had logged back in. Darwin grinned at Rickon from across the table as he got his bearings. Transitioning from the real world into the game took some getting used to. "Dude, that was epic last night," Darwin said. "Technically, it's still the same night, RWT, or real-world time," Rickon replied. Darwin looked out of the black window behind Rickon. "Weren't we supposed to return closer to morning so we could pick up the mushroom quest before heading back to Ambercross?" Rickon turned in his chair and saw it was still night out. "Huh, yeah, that was the plan. The only reason we would have logged into an earlier time was if we ran into an encounter." "You think we're about to have an encounter?" Darwin asked and felt for the hilt of his sword. "At the inn in Whitbell? I don't see how." Darwin looked around the room. There were a handful of people sitting at the tables. Even as he watched, more players were walking down the stairs from the rooms they had rented, probably before logging out. "Hey, is everyone in here a player?" Rickon called across the room and received several confirmations in reply. "Everyone is logging in at the same time in-game. That would mean we're all in the same micro-instance." He studied the room some more. "Anyone seen the innkeeper or any of the other NPCs?" Someone, a warrior by the look of him, said, "I saw the night shift barman leave with some other dude a little while ago, but he hasn't come back yet." "This is really weird," Darwin muttered. The inn's front door crashed open, and a man pushing a barrel on a handcart walked into the common room. It was Jandar, the blacksmith's apprentice. "He's not supposed to be up yet," Rickon said. A couple of other players must have recognized him as well. They approached him, asking if there was anything he needed help with in an attempt to trigger the bandit quest. Rickon saw the fury and hatred in the NPC's eyes when he said, "Yeah, you say hello to the bandits that killed my family, when I send you all to hell." Jandar kicked over the barrel of tempering oil, its contents sloshing against the closest player's boots and spread across the floor. The players cried out and jumped away. "The hell's your problem, dude?" the warrior who had spoken to Rickon demanded. Jandar grabbed the lantern hanging from a peg near the door. My problem is you lot being alive." The furious Smith threw the lantern in the middle of the oil still spreading across the floor. It ignited with a whoosh of flame and intense heat. Those standing in the pool screamed in pain and horror as fire crawled up their legs, too panicked to reduce their pain inhibitors. Jandar backed through the exit and slammed the door. Rickon and Darvin leapt from their chairs and sprinted for the door, but it wouldn't open. He thought the pounding come from the other side was someone trying to break it down, but he quickly realized with dawning horror that they weren't trying to get them out. They were nailing it shut to keep them inside. "What the fuck is going on?" Darvin shrieked.
"Fucked if I know. That goddamn blacksmith has lost his shit."
Rickon looked around the room and spotted a clear path to the kitchen through the fire.
"Turn off your pain inhibitors and follow me."
The two raced for the kitchen's back exit. Rickon tried to open the door, but it wouldn't budge. He and Darvin both threw themselves against it, but the wood was thick and the hinges strong and wouldn't give way. Smoke clawed at their lungs and flame licked at their backs. Most of the screaming in the common room had stopped, and all they could hear were their own cries and the crackling of unforgiving fire. "You take 15 points of damage from fire. You take 19 points of damage from fire. You take 25 points of damage from fire. You take 35 points of damage from fire. You have died." Darvin saw his friend's charred body collapse and brought up his UI. "Players are not allowed to log out during combat. Find a safe area and try again."
"Fuck!"
Darvin cried before the flames consumed him. Jandar stood outside the burning inn next to the innkeeper, his night barman, and the surly cook watching the flames devour the building and monsters inside. A crowd had gathered, many clutching buckets and pots of water to put out the flames, but Jandar had ordered them away from the inn and directed their efforts at the nearby buildings to ensure the fire did not spread. "What have you done, Jandar?" Darrell, the innkeeper, asked. "What I had to do," the blacksmith replied, his voice flat. "I still don't understand it all." "Neither do I, but I know what they did and what I had to do. I'm sorry about the inn. I hope you can salvage enough from those adventurers' bodies to rebuild." Darrell took a deep breath and let it out. "Don't worry about me, son. I'll be fine. What are you going to do? Murder is murder, and word of this is bound to spread. They'll come looking for you, and not just the law. They'll likely send the Templars. Maybe put a bounty on you as well, and you know how those adventurers love to collect bounties." Jandar shouldered his pack and hefted his hammer. "Let them come. Let them all come, especially the adventurers. I'll burn them all. You've got a demon in you, boy." The innkeeper sighed. Jandar turned and started walking away. "They put it there, but they'll pray to Matrix they hadn't."